Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Good afternoon. So, welcome to the course on comprehensive view of speech processing, and today lecture is 39 in series, and today we are going to discuss another important speech system. It is on speech synthesis, and this is also known to be text to speech synthesis, and we will see why this also be termed as text to speech synthesis or TTS system. So, here the basic components of text to speech synthesis system are given in this slide, and here before going to the details, the objective of this text to speech synthesis or this particular speech task is to like synthesizing the speech. The way as a humans, suppose we want to speak, so we will speak through our vocal tract system or a speech production system, which consists of glottis, then oral cavity and various articulators that are involved. So, with that we are producing the speech. But for production of speech, the message formulation will take place inside the brain, and then according to the message, the vocal tract and this the oral cavity and the speech production organs, so they will move according to the message. It means that based on the language and based on the words, and which in turn consists of the sounds that need to be produced. So, based on that these various articulators in the speech production mechanism, they move, and then with effect the speech will be produced. And here the message formulation takes place inside the brain in case of humans, and it is very difficult to like articulate exactly how the message used to be, in what form it used to be, and how does it represent it inside the brain. So, these like issues and these things and all, it is very difficult to articulate. So, whereas in the case of speech synthesis in the context of machines, here the goal is that the machine has to synthesize the speech. It means that by suppose if you design a voice interface with a machine, it means that we need to freely speak to a machine. That means we have to speak to a machine, the machine should understand, and again the machine has to respond back. It is kind of in case of robotics and all. So, have a robot, and if you want to interact with a robot, suppose we have the interaction is using several ways you can interact, either by using switches or by using the different controls and all. So, along with that there is another way of interacting with the machines, like using a voice interface. So, in that it means that like the way with other humans, the way we interact, we expect that the machines also will interact in the same way, so that the machines also should respond in the same way as the humans do. So, when you speak to the machine or when you like interact with a machine, so what we speak, it should be understood by a machine, and again a machine should respond back in a speech mode. So, but in the case of in the message to respond back in a speech mode, so as a human we know that since the message formulation takes place in the brain, and afterwards the brain will issue commands to the speech production mechanism, and accordingly various articulators will move, take different shapes, and they move, and then with an effect the speech will be produced. But in the context of a machine, how does it happens? How the message is represented in the context of machine? But as a machine, since we want to produce the speech, the message has to be represented in a very deterministic way, right, without any ambiguity at all. But the message in the brain in the context of human, we have ambiguity, we do not know how exactly it is formulated or represented. But in the context of a machine, it should be like represented in a very deterministic and very clear way. So, therefore, in the machine point of view, the message means it is nothing but a text or nothing but sequence of words. So, therefore, speech synthesis in the context of a machine means it expects the input in the form of a text, that the message will be has to be represented, has to be available in the form of a text or sequence of words, and then the machine will synthesize the speech according to the sequence of words or according to the text, whatever the input given to this. So, that is the reason that it is also known to be text to speech system. It means that it converts the text to appropriate speech, right. So, known to be text to speech system or speech synthesis. So, all these things are the words, the terms are used in an interchangeable way. So, the basic components of TTS here you can see in this slide, you can see you can broadly categorize that into the two modules, one is the front end and other one is the back end. So, the front end, the objective of front end is that because the input is the text and we need to derive the waveform or we need to derive the speech signal out of it, right. So, for that the input text and we know that the speech constitutes basically a sequence of sounds, and these sequence of sounds will form the words, and then that is the way the phrases and sentences will be there, right, in a continuous speech. So, therefore, from the text we need to derive the sequence of sounds that need to be produced, that need to be synthesized by the machine and all. So, therefore, the TTS front end module, the job of the TTS front end module is that it generates from the text, it has to generate the sequence of sounds to articulate the text whatever is given as the input, right. This means that the text whatever is there, so that is nothing but a sequence of words, and for pronunciation of words what are the sound units that are required. So, that information will be provided by the TTS front end. So, it basically derives the sequence of sounds, and along with the sequence of sound units, right, sequence of sound unit, it also specifies that the other characteristics. That means, suppose we have a sound unit, so we need to specify that what will be the duration of that sound and what will be the intonation contour and what will be the intensity profile of that particular sound, and whether those sounds are has to be like a stressed or not. So, all these control information, all these very related information to each of the sound has to be generated by the front end. So, you can see here, so the control information is nothing but here the phoneme level tags. It means that, for example, if the input is like, for example, pen, for example. So, for production of that particular word pen, so the sequence of sounds that are required will be phonemes like p and then a and then n, pen. Like, for example, bag, so b, a and then g, bag. So, whereas the text will be like bag, bag, right, but when to realize the speech or to realize the sound units corresponds to the bag will be like whatever the phoneme sequence whatever is there. So, that need to be realized by the TTS front end. So, you can able to see the pronunciation for each of the word in the form of sequence of phonemes that are, you can see that in the dictionaries, you can able to see that a word and it will be given as a sequence of sounds in the italic form. It used to be in the italic font, it used to be given in the directory, right, in the dictionary and all. So, that way the sounds will be specified, and afterwards to generate the sound we need to inform that how long that sound has to be, how long or what is the duration of that sound, and what will be the intensity of that sound, and what is nothing but energy, and what will be the pitch contour, or like I say the intonation, whether it is stressed or not. So, all this information has to be provided, and when you are generating the sequence of words, for example, and is there any pauses has to be allowed between the words. So, all those information has to be given by the TTS front end, and TTS back end, it will make use of these control information, right, because it provides the sequence of sounds, and for each sound what will be the duration, what is the energy, and what is the intonation profile. So, all those information will be made use by this back end, and it generates the corresponding wave or corresponding signal, it will be generated. So, that way the TTS front end and back end together will synthesize the speech from the given input text. Yeah. Then the same thing whatever I just mentioned here listed over here, the TTS front end. So, it basically whatever the document that is given to be synthesized. So, it tries to find out the structure of the document. It means that in that, suppose if you see the text, there will be commas, full stops, and there are different markers used to be there. So, we need to like understand those markers, and the TTS front end has to be interpret those markers, it has to give the relevant information to the TTS backend. Like sometimes the text contains the numbers, sometimes the text contains the acronyms. So it has to give the expanded versions of that. That means whatever the text. So as a human, when he look at the text, when he reads the text, the way the human reads the text, the same way the speech has to be produced. So in that context, from the text, all this information has to be generated by the front end. Like a text normalization means the abbreviations and acronyms has to be expanded, and there is a text markup language, that means in the SSML, it means that speech synthesis markup language. It provides the various tags along with the text, and so the TTS front end has to recognize those markers, and it has to decode, and it has to give the appropriate text for synthesis purpose. And linguistic analysis, it means that a given word, it is in some word consists of some alphabets, but in the pronunciation we use the different sounds, right? In the English context of English, you may know that the word spelling will be different from the way it is pronounced, right? So therefore the linguistic analysis module, it basically takes care of those things. From the given graphium version of the word, it has to realize that how to pronounce that, what are the sound units that are required, what are the sequence of sounds, and how to pronounce that. So all that information will be provided with the linguistic analysis module using these appropriate sub modules, like you can see the morphological analysis, syntactic analysis, and so on, right? Graphium to phoneme conversion, and homograph disambiguation. Homograph disambiguation means, suppose a word will be there, it has the same graphium representation, but when you speak it will be different. When you speak it will be different. It means it has different meanings, and it has to be pronounced differently based on the specific word in a specific position need to be uttered and all. So that way all this information will be provided by the TTS front end using the linguistic analysis module. And then along with that, the prosodic analysis, nothing but the progression of the intonation, speaking rate, rhythm, loudness. So all this information also has to be provided. So this is nothing but prosodic analysis. It means that along with the basic sounds and the other information, it also has to be provided that give the duration, the speaking rate, how fast it has to be spoken, and the rhythm that is involved, the loudness. So all this information will be constitutes the prosody. So this entire information will be generated by the TTS front end, and this will be utilized by the TTS back end. So the same thing here, it is given in the form of a block diagram. At a different stages, different control information will be generated. So it's an input text. By using the dictionary and rules, it will perform all these things: text normalization, document structure detection. Document structure detection means where the what are the sentences, where are the phrases, and where the pauses has to be given, and is there any, is the sentence is like a normal declarative sentence, or like it is like a kind of a question, kind of interrogative sentence. So all these things will be taken care appropriately by using these modules: text markup language, linguistic analysis, then phonetic analysis, then finally the prosodic analysis and all. And so based on appropriate rules and machine learning algorithms, it will generate the desired information. Finally the control information will be provided by the TTS front end, right? Then the prosody analysis means, as we know that by using appropriate dictionary and letter to sound rules, and there are some other rule based and statistical systems, we can able to generate the necessary information. And in addition to that, for every sound, so we need to generate the prosodic parameters also. So here the prosodic parameters means basically the 3 or 4 attributes, that is duration of the sound, and in that duration what will be the intonation pattern. It means that how the pitch has to be varied, and then how the intensity has to be varied, and whether the loudness and how much, what is the level of loudness has to be allowed. So all this information has to be generated. So that is known to be, that will be carried out by using the prosody analysis module or prosody generation module. So that means the duration modeling, it's nothing but timing of sequence of sounds has to be provided. So this can be done either by using rule based or the data driven approaches. Rule based approaches means by analyzing the data as a humans, like we'll take some existing speech data, and then we'll try to see that what are the words and what are the sequence of sounds, and for a particular sound in the particular context, what is its duration. So, all these will be analyzed by the humans, and then they will derive the rules out of it. It means that for every sound unit, they say that there will be some inherent duration for each sound unit, and then based on its context, that means whatever the preceding unit, whatever the following unit, based on its positional information, whether the sound is occurring in the first word in the first position, or whether the sound is occurring in the word ending position or word middle position. So, likewise, so for various things we will try to suggest that where rules will suggest that what is the percentage of change with respect to the inherent duration has to be done. Suppose inherent duration equals to 100 milliseconds, and we will say that the duration has to be increased by 10%. So, it means that now the duration will be 110 milliseconds, or otherwise the duration has to be reduced by 20%. It means that the inherent duration is 100, so it has to be reduced by 20%. So, therefore, it will be 80 milliseconds. So, that way, using a rule based approach, it suggests that what is the appropriate modifications or appropriate durations with respect to the inherent duration will be specified. And then the data driven approaches is nothing but by using these nonlinear models, either neural network models or like support vector machines or these regression trees, you can able to predict the durations. So, for that what we do, the similar to the human observation, here also we will take lot of data, existing data, and we will try to derive the features. Suppose for example, if you have a particular sound unit, and we will try to realize the sound unit, what is the type of, what is the sound unit, what is the identity of sound unit, and what is the preceding sound unit, what is the following sound unit, and where the sound unit is occurred, right, and which word it is there, and where is a word initial word middle position. So, all this will be quantified properly, and that will be used as a feature vector, and then the duration of the particular sound will be given as output. So, that way we will use the machine learning approaches based on the data. So, these are going to be data driven approaches. So, it means that here the nonlinear models will be used to predict the prosodic parameters. And intonation modeling, these are the popular models with which you can able to suggest the intonation of a given sentence or the sequence of words, like a tone sequence model, Fujisaki model, tilt model. There are various models, and here these models they are like a generic models, you can able to apply to various languages, but some models are more suitable to specific languages. The tone sequence model means, suppose if the language for a particular language, if the speech consists of various tones, then it is better to use the tone sequence model and the Fujisaki model, but these are the generic, you can apply to, you can model these, or you can apply to any of the language appropriately, so that the intonation patterns can be predicted by using these models. And similar to, in addition to these models, we can also predict the intonation patterns using the data driven approaches also. Using the data driven approaches, the way we model the duration, same way you can also model the intonation patterns also. And so, for generation of a pitch contour, you can see this is the block diagram, it is given. So, for a pitch contour, to generate a pitch contour, the tagged text, it is nothing but the text and its corresponding phonetic string, it will be given by the linguistic module, and afterwards based on that, here it will give a symbolic prosody. It means that where the pauses has to be there, and pitch accents, what tones are there. So, that way this particular module will be given, and afterwards here the range of a pitch, whether the pitch style will be declining or rising or prominence. So, all these attributes will be like provided by this sequence of stages. So, finally, the F0 contour will be generated by superimposing the speaker style on it. TTS backend, it means that by having the control information that is generated by the TTS front end, it will make use of that, it will generate the speech. Generation of speech is nothing but generating the sequence of samples that what we have. Suppose whatever we collected from the microphone, whatever we acquire, the similar kind of a thing has to be generated by the speech synthesis system. So, there are different approaches for synthesizing the speech. One is the rule based speech synthesis, corpus based speech synthesis, this is also known to be concatenative speech synthesis, and statistical parametric speech synthesis, and end to end speech synthesis. So, in the recent past, because due to the proliferation of these deep architectures and availability of huge amount of annotated speech data. So, people are using this end to end speech systems. This we also observed in the speech recognition systems also. So, we have end to end speech recognition system, like it means that the kind of the modular or approach will be replaced by the end to end speech recognition system. It means the input will be the speech, output will be the text. The same way here also the speech synthesis also, using a deep architectures or deep neural networks, we can able to realize the speech synthesis in an end to end fashion. It means that it takes the input as a text, as a sequence of words. The outcome will be directly the waveform or a speech waveform or a speech signal. And whereas the other approach is rule based approach, there are here we will try to just briefly mention about these two techniques, articulatory synthesis and format synthesis. And a corpus based speech synthesis, it means that use the database, labeled database, and with that we can generate the speech. It is not to be concatenated speech synthesis, because here the speech units are represented as a direct waveforms or direct signal representations. So, based on the sound units need to be generated. So, those sound units will be acquired from the database, and we will try to join them, and that way we will realize the desired speech signal for the given text. So, that way it is known to be concatenated synthesis, and since these sound units are available in the speech corpus, so also known to be corpus based speech synthesis. Then the statistical parametric speech synthesis. So, in case of statistical parametric speech synthesis, so here we will try to realize the speech units in the form of the statistical framework. It means by using hidden Markov models, we will try to realize the speech, we will try to model the different sound units, right, and then afterwards based on the desired sound units to be produced, we will generate the features from these hidden Markov models, the model developed hidden Markov models, and use those features for synthesis purpose. And the end to end speech synthesis, as I mentioned, that here there is no only one single system where the input will be the text and the output will be the corresponding wave files. And in case of articulatory speech synthesis, so here the idea here is that in case of articulatory speech synthesis, we will try to synthesize the speech the way similar to our speech production mechanism. That means for production of speech, we will try to move the various articulators and vary the vocal tract shape in a particular sequence of shapes. So, that way the speech sounds will be produced, and the sequence of sounds will be realized as words and so on. So, in case of articulatory synthesis also, we will try to synthesize the speech based on this one by exploiting the mechanical and acoustic models of a speech production. Mechanical means the way the vocal tract shape changes, and the way the tongue movements, the way the lip movements, and these vocal folds movements. So, all these things will be realized, all these things will be properly synthesized by appropriate mathematical models and all. So, the dynamics of articulators are represented by using a partial equations, and here you can see that this is the way for example, PG and UG. PG is nothing but the pressure at the glottis, UG is nothing but the volume offered at the glottis, and then this ABCD is nothing but the parameterization of the coefficients corresponds to the vocal tract, and with that you can able to get the outcome at the PL and UL, that means pressure at the lips and the volume of the acoustic signal at the lips. So, that way you can able to generate, by knowing this you can able to, and here this ABCD parameters are these are nothing but the parametric representation of the vocal tract. So, again this ABCD, since the vocal tract is a very complex shape and its the length is about 17 centimeters. So, it is not like a single linear tube. So, it is like a very complex shape. So, therefore, it is modeled as a sequence of various cross sections, like sequence of smaller tubes with different cross sectional areas. So, therefore, here in this case we are realized using the P cross sections, and so some of for each of the smaller tube will be realized by appropriate its coefficients, area coefficients. So, that way the entire vocal tract will be modeled by taking the concatenation of all these the different subsections of the vocal tract. And for realizing this one, we are using the ultrasound pictures of a tongue shape and a nuclear magnetic resonance. So that way these kind of a photographs will be used. That means when you are speaking, so we capture them, and then those frames will be considered, and with that actually we will try to realize the articulatory movements for a given for a sequence of sounds. And here you can see like for example, for the production of vowel E, the way the tongue will be like lifted up, and this is the way the vocal tract shape used to be. And now here this is the area function corresponds to the vocal tract for the production of E from a glottis to the lips. Whereas for nasal cavity, this is there is no change at all, because it is a constant area. So it will be represented like. So from this we need to generate the vocal tract resonances of this kind, like a sequence of resonances you have to generate. And then the next one is the formant speech synthesizers. So in case of this articulatory synthesis, it is like we try to simulate the human vocal tract system, but it is very difficult, very complex, because like the very since it is a very complex system, and the articulatory movements and a lot of non-linearities will be there, modeling them will be highly complex. So, but if you can able to model that, then the speech that is produced by using articulator synthesis will be like it is very close to the human speech and a very highly natural and all. So, no other system is comparable to that, provided if you can able to design this articulator synthesis effectively. And so, the next one is the formant speech synthesis. And here in case of formant speech, we know that the speech consists of 70 or 80% of the speech, the voice is speech consisting of the vowels, presence of vowels and all, and these vowels are have a regular proper format structure, that means consists of 3 or 4 regular formats which are having the dominant frequencies that are in the overall spectrum. So therefore, here in case of formant synthesis, we will try to synthesize the speech by properly modeling the formats and the corresponding their bandwidths and their gains and so on. So here in case of formant synthesis, we can realize that using the 2 types of formant synthesizers. One is a cascade synthesizer, another one is a parallel synthesizer. In case of cascade synthesizer, because we need that, we know that the voices sounds, they are realized by a sequence of 3 or 4 formats, combination of 3 or 4 formats. So that way in case of cascade synthesizer, those formats will be synthesized in a sequential way, whereas in case of parallel synthesizer, so they will be synthesized in a parallel way, like that means all will be generated and then they will be added together. And so whereas a hybrid synthesizer will be a combination of both cascade and parallel synthesizer, because using a cascade synthesizer we can able to realize the better these open and the non that means the vocal tract open, that is basically the vowels and liquids can be properly synthesized using cascade synthesizer, whereas the fricatives, nasals, so they will be better synthesized by using a parallel synthesizer, because you can see for nasals and fricatives. So there will be, like in case of fricatives, the vocal tract itself will be divided into 2 cavities. So it means that the formats has to be, or whatever the resonant frequencies, they will be developed parallelly. So therefore it is better to realize those sounds using a parallel synthesizer, parallel format synthesizers. And the hybrid synthesizer is nothing but combination of these 2, that is depending upon the sound unit, we will make use of either cascade or a parallel synthesizer and all. And using a format synthesis, right, so the intelligibility is more, that means using a format synthesis, if you synthesize the speech, it is intelligible, but at the same time it is a less natural, because here all these formats and all, they try to model the vocal tract very effectively, but the excitation component is not given much weightage, or excitation component is not taken care. So because of that, you do not perceive the speech to be like a natural speech, it is very far from the natural speech, but the intelligibility is reasonably good. And this is just a diagrammatic illustration of this. Suppose this is the format and these are the various parameters associated with that. This is the peak frequency, this is the bandwidth associated with that, and this is the roll off of the format. So all these parameters will be known. So based on that, we will try to synthesize the format. And now this format, this is the way the vocal tract will be like designed, will try to design the synthesizer to realize this format, and then the excitation corresponds to that will be realized by using some like a basic glottal pulse with the like open region and closed region, and along with that some breathiness also will be added to provide naturalness. So, this way the excitation signal will be realized, and this is the way the formats will be designed by using these parameters. And as I mentioned, the cascade synthesizer is nothing but, suppose if you are designing the like a system using 3 formats. So, this is the way the formats will be synthesized one after another, but here you can see the gain control will be at the beginning. That means, we cannot vary the formats heights, or you can say that the gain of the formats cannot be varied individually, right. So, whatever the gain, that gain will be given at the beginning, and then later on all the formats will be like realized on for that particular gain itself. But whereas here you have the gains individually, the gains of the individual formats can be varied. So, that way that depending upon the requirement, suppose for a particular sound unit, and where different formats have different clear different heights or different like amplitudes are required. So, in that case it is better to have a parallel format synthesizer with appropriate gains can be provided to each of the format.
Then in the in view of speech synthesis, there are different types of speech synthesis we have discussed. In that, one among them is the format synthesis. So, in which using the format synthesis by knowing the format frequencies and their bandwidths and the type of excitation, one can able to generate the different sound units. Basically, the various voiced sounds can be produced. So, for a better understanding, one of the experiment in these virtual labs is available, which is developed by the IIT Hyderabad. So, where one of the experiments is completely dedicated to synthesizing the vowel sounds, like different vowel sounds using the formats and their bandwidths and the corresponding excitations. So, in view of format synthesis, so I will suggest to go through the virtual labs developed by the IIT Hyderabad, and those experiments are available at this website. So, please go through that and get a feel for that, how the speech sounds are produced using a format synthesis.
And this is a hybrid synthesizer, as I mentioned, that which contains both serial and parallel synthesizer. You can say that this is the serial synthesizer, parallel synthesizer, and this is the excitation source, and it will be offered, and then both of them will be combined, that depending upon the sound unit it is realizing. The next part is the concatenative speech synthesis. So, and this is also known to be corpus based speech synthesis, and here as we have seen, the format synthesis and the articulated synthesis, they are parametric form, and you can also say they are the rule based. It means that by observing the various sound units, so we will try to see that for a particular sound unit, so what are the formats, and we will try to realize those formats using the techniques that we have discussed. Similarly, in case of articulated synthesis also, for different sound units, what will be the shape of the vocal tract, we will try to realize the shape of the vocal tract, and then we will excite that, and that way we can able to get the desired speech signal. But the thing is that the speech contains a lot of variability, and the sounds also, the characteristics of a sound will depending upon its context, as I have mentioned. So, all those things, realizing all those variations, that will be difficult by using these rule based approaches, but those variations inherently provide the naturalness to the speech, right. So, that is the reason that the rule based approaches and all, they are very far away from the naturalness, and the intelligibility is okay to some extent is reasonable, that is also for certain words. So, therefore, we have to increase the naturalness along with the intelligibility. So, the next stage of speech synthesizers known to be concatenative speech synthesizers, and here in case of concatenative speech synthesis, the basic idea is that, so here because to generate a waveform, will be very difficult, will be not very difficult, it is not like up to the mark, it is not like up to the it is not natural where the humans can able to appreciate, right. So, that is the reason here in the case of concatenated speech synthesis, what we do is that we use the waveforms itself or the signal, the segments of signals itself directly we will place it, we will use it, and depending upon the sequence of sounds that need to be required. So, those sequence of sounds will be put together, joined together, right, in a concatenative way, and that way the waveform will be generated. Whereas, earlier in case of format synthesis or in case of articulator synthesis, we will generate the excitation signal and we will generate the vocal tract shape or vocal tract characteristics, and we will excite this vocal tract with the excitation, and that way the speech will be emitted. Whereas, here, so we do not do all those things. Here instead the speech units are realized or represented with the proper parameters, or otherwise with the proper waveforms itself will be available, and then the depending upon the text analysis module, what are the sequence of sounds that need to be produced. So, those for those sequence of sounds, the corresponding wave files or the corresponding parameters will be taken, and then it will be synthesized. So, that way this is known to be concatenated speech synthesis. It is nothing but the TTS front end will be same. The TTS front end, it will to provides the sequence of sounds that need to be synthesized, and along with that it also indicate the different other prosodic information also. So, by putting all this together, we will try to search for the appropriate sound units or appropriate the sound units that are present in the corpus or present in the database, and we will pick up those sound units and then we will add together, we will just join together. So, that way the speech signal will be realized or synthesized using this. So, that way it is known to be concatenated speech synthesis. So, various blocks here are the text is input, and here the text analysis module similar to the one what we discussed, it gives you the sequence of sounds and other control information, and then afterwards it will assemble the units. It is nothing but whatever the units that are available in the data store, and from that the best units as per the requirement here that will be picked up and they will be joined together, the speech waveform, and after that after you join those units, right, but the text analysis, the text the front end will give you the other parameters also, like what is the duration of the sound unit, what is the intensity profile, what is the intonation pattern. So, all this information is provided, but here the available units may not have those parameters, may not have the parameters which are close to that. So, in that case the best units that will be picked up from the data store available from database, and afterwards we will join them, and then the desired prosody will be incorporated. For example, the duration of the sound will be like, for example, 100 milliseconds is required, but in your database you do not have that particular unit with 100 milliseconds. You may have the unit with 130 milliseconds, for example. Then we will pick up that unit itself, and afterwards by using signal processing technique we will try to reduce the duration of the particular sound to like 100 millisecond, or otherwise suppose it has to be stretched, for example, we need 170 milliseconds. So, in that case the 40 milliseconds additional waveform will be generated from that. So, that way all these modifications will be carried out by using the appropriate signal processing techniques, and then finally the speech will be generated. Yeah, here if you look at here the diphone based concatenated speech synthesis. So, here the idea here is that it is a concatenated speech synthesis, but here the data store or the database contains only a single version of the sound units. Here first of all, before going to the details, we will see what is the diphone, because the diphone means it is like joining of two half phones known to be diphone, joining of two half phones known to be diphone. So, why this is required is that otherwise the phones, if you look at suppose if you represent the sound units as the phones, the joining the phones will give you a lot of distortion, because the joining of phones means at the beginning you have a transition region, and again at the end of the phone also we have a transition region, and when you join the two phones together, and so those, because of those transition regions, that leads to lot of distortion, and it is very much you can observe as a human, you can able to observe lot of perceptual distortion, and it will be very difficult to bear that perceptual distortion for a long time. So, therefore, here what best can be done is that instead of taking the phones, if you just join the two phones together at a middle portion, because the phone means if you see that there is a beginning and afterwards there is some stable portion and afterwards again there is a termination ending of a phone. And here what we do is that each phone will split it at the middle, will split at the middle of the phone at the middle, and then that way each phone will be splitted into two parts, like a beginning to the middle and middle to the end. So, that and now the diphones will be formed like this is the way diphones will be formed. For example, the word to be synthesized will be dog, for example, and for this the sounds that are required will be d, a and then g. So, these are the three sounds that need to be synthesized, d, a and g, right. So, that are the three sounds, and for that the da is nothing but actually here you say that initially it is like da. So, therefore, since it is a beginning sound, so there will not be any preceding thing will not be there. So, therefore, we have to pick up the da such a way that it is at the beginning. This is at the beginning, that means the first half of the da has to be taken, and again here the da, you can see that here there is a da, there is a half phone at the beginning and a half phone of da, and here the second half of the da and then o is there, the beginning of o is there here, and then the later of the o, the second part of the o will be here, and here the beginning of the ga will be here, and here the second half of the ga will be here, and afterwards nothing will be there. So, that way here the diphones are nothing but the joining of two half phones. That means every phone will be splitted into two halves, will be halves, like for example beginning to the middle and middle to the end. So, that way every phone will be divided into two parts, and then we can able to realize the phones this way, like here for example dog, this is nothing but the beginning of the da and this is the ending of da, and here the diphone here is that the ending of a da and the beginning of o is there, and here this is the diphone like the ending of o and the beginning of ga, and this is a diphone that ending of ga and nothing else. So, that way we have, suppose there are 40 phones, means we have 1600 diphones are possible. So, therefore, here the data store which contains only the 1600 diphones, and that way the depending upon the word to be synthesized, the corresponding diphones will be derived will be generated by the your text analysis module. That means a dog, when a word encountered, then the text analysis module will say that yeah, the phonemes that are required will be da, a and ga, and these are the phonemes. So, in the case of diphones, the corresponding units will be this way, like the corresponding units will be this way, the 4 units and all. There are these two diphones, and then this is the beginning diphone, this is the end of diphone. So, that way the corresponding waveforms will be derived from the data store, right. And now, here for this particular dog, each sound unit, they have their own, the text analysis module will provide that the duration of da and duration of a and duration of ga, and similarly the intonation patterns and the energy pattern, all these things will be given. But here whatever the available waveforms are there, those will be taken here, because here in this case only one version of the diphones are there, that means only 1600 diphones will be there. With that you can able to realize any sound unit or any words, all words can be realized with that. So, therefore, we will pick up those diphones, but here the parameters of these individual sound units, they are not matching to the parameters that are provided by the text analysis module. So, therefore, by applying some signal processing techniques, we will join them, and afterwards by applying some signal processing techniques, we will modify these, the durations, modify the the intonation contours. That way we can able to perform the modification on that. Finally, the speech will be synthesized, right. So, this is known to be diphone based concatenative speech synthesis, and here in this case diphone based concatenative speech synthesis, where we have the data store or the database consists of the suppose if there are 40 phonemes of a language, it means that total possible diphones will be 1600, total possible diphones will be 1600, because there are two phones that are added together, the joined together, right. So, therefore, two phones means each phone will have 40 types. So, therefore, 40 into 40, there are 1600 diphones possible. So, those 1600 diphones, from that based on the desired sequence of diphones, that will be based on that we will just pick up those units and then join together, and on that the desired signal modification techniques will be applied over that. Yeah, then in the concatenative synthesis, the actually basic idea is that what are the units for concatenation, whether the diphones, phones are not good units for concatenation purpose, because as I mentioned that because the phone we have at the both ends we have a transition region. So, therefore, when you try to join the individual phones, it will be very difficult, and not only that, when you are marking the phone on a speech signal, it is very difficult to identify the boundaries exactly. So, that is the reason that diphones are preferred compared to the phones for concatenative synthesis, because we split it at the middle where they have a high signal energy is possible and stable regions are there. So, therefore, when you split that and when you are joined at the high signal energy, there you do not feel much distortion. Right. So, the diphones are demi-syllables, it is nothing but similar to the diphone. The demi-syllable also nothing but two syllables will be joined, like two half syllables will be joined. And in unit selection synthesis, so we have to see that because since you are concatenating the different units, we have to see that whether when you are concatenating the adjacent units should not leads to the distortion. That means the boundaries or adjacent boundaries should be properly matched. Otherwise, you will get a distortion because of the phase mismatch and other things. So, and along with that, when you are picking up the units also, the prosodic tags also has to be matched. It means the text analysis module will provide you the duration, like intonation and other specify that, and when you are picking up the units, you have to pick up the units such a way that as far as possible the units should match to that the prosodic parameter that are offered by the text analysis module. And here the things that need to be taken care here in the case of concatenated speech synthesis is that target cast and join cast. Target cast means the text analysis module will give you that these are the sequence of sound units that need to be synthesized, and those sequence of sound units has to be available in the data store and they have to be brought down. So, if they are not there, then the units that are close to that has to be brought down, right. And here the target sound means it is not just the sound unit itself, and along with the target sound we have to specify that what is the context of this particular sound unit. So, for this particular sound unit, what is the preceding sound, what is the following sound, what is the preceding to the preceding sound unit. So, because all these things matter, because the co-articulation will be percolated across the units. So, therefore, when you are picking up the unit, you have to pick up the unit from a right context, right. So, it means that you can see here, for example, you need to have a sound unit like ah, for example, and that ah may be available from a different words like for example want and caught. There are here also we have ah is available, here also we have ah is available. But if you want to synthesize caught, in that case, suppose if you take ah from this, then it is not the proper, because here this ah is in between like oa and then na. Between these two, the context of ah is present here, but here the ah that is required for synthesis purpose will be, you have a ka, that is ka means it is like stop before that, and then ra like after that. So, in this context the ah is preferred here, but here suppose this ah is available. So, if you look at the as with respect to sound unit, it matches, but the context of the sound unit is does not match. So, that way when you are trying to pick up the sound unit, you have to see the context also, because the earlier one whatever we have seen in the case of diphone based synthesis, there we have only one version of diphones are available, then in that case there is no context information is taken care. But the database is very limited, it will be very fast, but here there the context is not available. So, therefore, the distortions, the perceptual distortions are more. But here you have to pick up, you have a choice, suppose for example you have 10 hours of speech is there for example. So, from the 10 hours of speech, if you want to have ah, you have like thousands of ahs are present in the database. So, from that ahs you have to pick up a right ah, that means here suppose you want to realize, if you want to synthesize caught, it means that the ah that is required will be like prior to that there should be stop, and later on that afterwards you have to be ra, like. So, such sound unit in between the ah, those ahs has to be picked up, right. And so, that way the join cast, it is nothing but here after you decide the units, when you try to join that, so you have to see that the units that are need to be joined, they should have very less distortion. That means it is the signal discontinuities across the boundaries has to be minimized, right. So, therefore, here if you have if the successive units are available in the database, better to pick up those successive units directly, so that that means there won't be any discontinuities, then you can feel the speech to be smoother and more natural. So, here for example, this is an example of concatenated speech synthesis, and this is also known to be unit selection synthesis. So, the reason it is that because here in this where we have a lot of, we will have very huge corpus, and in that case the units, there are several units are available, and from that you have to pick up the right unit based on the target specifications. Target specification, not only the sound unit, along with that the context also has to be taken care, right. And so that way here for example, you want to synthesize the word to, so it contains only two phonemes, right, ta and u. So therefore, these two phonemes can be realized by using these three diphones. By using these three diphones, you can able to realize that. What is that ta, and then ta, then u, half of ta and half of u, and then the second half of u. Here this is the initial ta, and this is the later ta, that is the second half of ta and the first half of u, and second half of u, and then ends, word ends. So that way here in this case we have like multiple units of tas may be there, and multiple units of this diphone is there, and multiple units of this is there, and from that you need to pick up the right sequence of sound units and all. So that way this is known to be unit selection synthesis also, USS, right. And the same thing here, the same realization here and all. You can see here for example dog, for the same, earlier we have only one version of these diphones are available. So therefore you do not have a choice at all. You just take those waveforms and then you just add them, and afterwards you apply signal processing techniques. So here you have multiple versions of diphones are available, like multiple versions of da with the initial da is available, and multiple versions of later da, the second half of da and then first half of u is available. So likewise here the multiple versions of sounds are available, and from that the best sequence of sounds can be picked up, which takes care about the target cost and concatenation cost has to be minimized, right. So that way from this we will pick up a sequence of best sequence, that means from this 4 1 will be picked up, from this 4 1 will be picked up, from this 4 1 unit will be picked up, all this will be joined, and afterwards still it requires modifications, we can perform the modification. So that way this is known to be unit selection synthesis, and it is same as concatenated synthesis because you are joining the units, right, and this is also known to be corpus based synthesis because here these units are available from the large corpus like 10 hours or like 100 hours of speech data, and which is labeled, and then so by using appropriate scheme indexed that will labeled and indexed also, then by depending upon the sequence of sounds we will try to pick up those sounds by in a dynamic way, right, and then we will join together and then apply appropriate signal processing techniques to get a, and this is the target and concatenation cost in case of unit selection synthesis. You can see the target cost, suppose these are the target units like I minus 1, I plus 1, and these are the target units like for example, and these are the units that are available in the corpus, So when you are picking up these units, we will try to match, we will try to see that how far the unit that is available in the corpus is matched to the target. It is not that only the unit has to be matched, along with that as I mentioned that various other parameters also like the context, and not only that, suppose the unit is present in the first word and whereas that is required to be synthesized, but the unit that is available in the database, it may be the first word or second word or last word. So all the units like so all the parameters will be considered, and then we will try to see that what is the target cost here. Target cost means with respect to target, like what will be the available unit, how far the available unit is close to the target, that is known to be target cost, right. And then the concatenation cost, that means when you are choosing the sequence of units, so the adjacent units to be of have very less discontinuity should be there with respect to spectrally or time domain representations also. For that the better is that suppose you want to synthesize a particular word, if that word is already available in the database for example, then the algorithm should pick up the units in a sequence from that particular word itself. Then all the units are available from the same word. So since they are naturally available, naturally the sequence of sound units that are available in the database, then if you pick up them, then if you join them, then the concatenation cost will be minimized, or it will be very very low concatenation cost, and it leads to you do not perceive any distortion at all. So, the mathematical real representation for this optimal cost is nothing but, so Tn and Un, Tn is nothing but target unit, and this is nothing but the unit that is picked up from the corpus. And then there are two types of cost, one is the target cost and other one is the concatenation cost. This is the target cost, it means suppose there are n units has to be picked up. So, for all the units, the difference between the units that are picked up versus the units that are need to be actually required. So, this gives the target cost and this gives the concatenation cost. Concatenation cost means joinings, like this is the joining between the two units, and this is the first unit, there is no joining at all at the one end. So, therefore, this is the first unit, this is the last unit and all, right, because when you are joining suppose 4 units, the first unit will be joined with the second unit, but the first unit at the beginning there is no joining at all. So, that is nothing but this one, and this is for the last unit, and this is for the intermediate units. So, that way the total cost is nothing but target cost, this is the first term, and the remaining 3 terms contribute to the concatenation cost. And yeah, same thing, the target cost and concatenation cost. Target cost basically tries to minimize the, suppose the target cost is minimized or optimized, it means that the intelligibility will be improved, and if the concatenation cost is optimized, it means that the naturalness will be improved, right. And the concatenation cost deals with the formats and LPCs and the spectral features basically, and the target cost is nothing but this the symbol, whether the same sound is picked up or not in the context and the positions and where it is, whether it is from the first word, second word. So, all these things will be involved in the picking up the target cost. And then as I mentioned that in a unit selection synthesis, when you are picking up the units from the data store, it is not that the units will satisfy the desired requirements given by the text analysis module. So, in that case, after you pick up the units with optimal criteria, then the units will be joined together, and then you need to perform certain signal modifications as per the requirement. So, for that you can use these techniques like TD Pisola, that means a time domain, pitch synchronous overlap and add method, and sometimes the waveforms instead of data is available in the form of waveforms, we use the parametric form. So, therefore, you can use LP synthesis or sinusoidal synthesis or HNM, harmonic plus noise model, with which we can able to synthesize the signal. One way is that actually waveforms itself is directly available, other way instead of waveforms you can able to represent the signal in the form of parameters like LPCs, right. LPC means you have excitation signal as well as the corresponding LP coefficients. Similarly, sinusoidal synthesis is nothing but in the form of parameters like HNM also in the harmonic and noise components. That way you can able to have, and here in the case of in case of corpus based synthesis, these are the requirements, like the units can be compressed at high quality, because if the database is very large, then the selection of unit itself will take a reasonable delay, but in the case of realistic speech synthesis system in the real time, so the delay should not be like too large. It should take care about the in a realistic sense. So, then the low computation cost, when you are computing target cost or like concatenated cost, the cost has to be computed in a very less computational way, and ultimately the perceptual distortion should be as low as possible, and selected units sometimes it allow the natural modifications. So, in that way instead of waveform, sometimes if the units are available in the parametric form, then the modifications over the parameters will be more flexible compared to the waveforms itself. And yeah, this is the way, suppose for example, this is the original signal, and if you want to increase the pitch period, if you look at here in this particular segment, we have 5 pitch periods are there, and but here if you want to decrease the pitch, nothing but you have to increase the pitch period. So, in that case, by using signal processing technique, we can able to just pick up some pitch cycles, and then we have to remove some of them. So, that way you can see here from this signal you can able to derive this particular pitch modified speech, where it contains only 3 periods, whereas here you can see there are total 4 or 5 periods, right. And but here if after modification also, if you look at the spectrum almost follows the same envelope, but here the pitch is high. So, therefore, you can able to see the harmonics. Here the pitch is here the pitch is low. So, therefore, you can able to see the like harmonics accordingly, but the overall shape remains same after the modification also. And some the speech signal after performing the signal after synthesis, sometimes you need to have some transformations or some modifications are required. It means that suppose you want to perform signal speaker transformation, it means that the voice whatever is generated. So, if you want to like adapt some other speaker's voice, so in that case you can perform the speaker transformation by properly capturing the desired speaker's characteristics, and you can able to superimpose on it, like with respect to all aspects, like for example the vocal tract information along with the prosodic information also. Similarly, expressive speech synthesis, suppose from the given text you can able to relay some speech, but if you want the speech to be more expressive, and from the text we need to infer that what is the underlying message it contains, underlying emotions it contains, and based on that you can also modify the speech as per the desired emotions. And similarly, the accent, dialect and accent transformation, suppose the text will not provide you the dialectic information. So, from the text you can able to synthesize the speech, but if the speech is targeted for a particular dialect, a particular region where the dialect that is spoken will be different. So, in that case we can use the appropriate the dialect or accent transformation technique, so that the speech can be transformed to the desired the dialectic characteristics. So, the same way the other things also. So, then you have the another speech synthesis technique known to be the statistical parametric speech synthesis, and here in the unit selection synthesis what we have seen is that the units that are available in the data store are in the form of waveforms or a signal, and when you try to join them, so if the proper units are not available, then in that case it leads to perceptual distortion. That means we will pick up some unit which is close to that requirements, and afterwards we will perform some signal modifications. Since it is not the natural one, not the desired unit, so that imposes or that inserts that includes some distortion, and that is like perceptible by the human ear, and we do not feel that is like more natural and all. So, to overcome that, there is another synthesis technique known to be statistical parametric speech synthesis technique. Here, in case of statistical parametric speech synthesis technique, the missing units can be taken care in a very flexible way, because here we are not using directly the units. Instead, here we are using the parameters which are realized by some statistical models, and then with that all possible units can be generated from these models, and so that it can be so that it is very flexible. You can generate any sequence of text, or any text can be synthesized, even though the words are those units are not available in the data store, like in case of unit selection synthesis, still you can able to synthesize without any much distortion at all. And if you if you look at the overall structure here you can, this is a speech database, and here we can extract the parameters, and then we will build the models. We will build the HMM models based on the context, all possible contexts, the trigram, or like the unit with 2 units before and 2 units later, like that 5 units together. So, that way we will build the HMM like for both excitation and spectral parameters, and all those units are available in the data store. And now, from the text, if you want to synthesize from the text analysis module will give you the sequence of sounds that need to be synthesized, and based on the sequence of sounds here from this data store, from these HMM models, we can able to generate the parameters, both the excitation parameters and as well as the spectral parameters, and then by using this appropriate synthesis technique, we can able to synthesize the speech. That means, the way here the parameters are represented, then we use the appropriate synthesis filter to synthesize the speech, right. So, yeah, here next finally, when you are after synthesizing the speech or a text to speech synthesis system, we need to evaluate that how good the speech synthesis system will be, and for that there are measures like accuracy is one of them. This accuracy measure is used to validate the TTS front end, because the TTS front end is nothing but text analysis module. It takes the text as input, it derives the control information related to sequence of sounds and intonation parameters and prosodic parameters, various tags and so on, right. And this accuracy will be evaluated by giving a text as input, and then by like analyzing the various acronyms, how they are expanded, and various other punctuation marks, whether it is properly realized or not. So, this is nothing but just ability to read the input text like a human, like a knowledgeable human and all. So, for that actually here we have like standard techniques with which you can able to analyze the performance of text analysis module. The second one is the back end, where it is basically the synthesis part. That means, whatever the parameter that is offered by the text analysis module will be used by this back end, and it will synthesize the speech. So, the ultimate when you are synthesizing the speech, the ultimate objective is that the synthesized speech should be intelligible. That means, from the synthesized speech you need to get the message out of it, and second one is that the speech should be natural. It's like a human speech. So, that way here in case of intelligibility and naturalness, and here these components using, suppose if you take a format synthesis, rule based synthesis, it is highly intelligible. That means, you can able to get a message, but it is not natural. Since it is not natural, so it is very difficult for a human to listen to this speech for a long time. And whereas unit selection synthesis, it takes care of both. It is both intelligible and as well as natural also, right. It is both intelligible and as well as natural. And but here the problem with the unit selection synthesis is that the corpus is very large, and sometimes some units may not be present here. So, at that time you can you have a problem of missing units and all, then you have to realize with the nearby some approximate units, and that may leads to distortion. And then the third one is the statistical parametric synthesis. It is both intelligible and natural, but it is not that natural as the unit selection synthesis, because in unit selection synthesis the entire units itself is available in the database to directly pick up those units and join together. So, all these natural joins and will be taken care. So, therefore, the distortion will be very less and it is more natural, whereas in case of statistical parametric synthesis we will try to synthesize from the parameters. So, therefore, the naturalness is slightly less, but it is more flexible, using, because since there are parameters. So, that depending upon our requirements, suppose we want to change the speaker style, or if you want to, like for example, impose the emotions on the speech. So, all those things can be taken care with the help of statistical parametric synthesis, but those are not possible in case of unit selection synthesis or format synthesis, because they used to offer a speech, and then afterwards you have to use the signal processing techniques to modify that, but here it is not that way. But here in statistical parametric synthesis you can change the speaker style, and you can also impose the emotions also, and you can like vary the speaking rate. So, all these things can be very efficiently can be carried out using the statistical parametric speech synthesis. And these are the tests that are used to evaluate that. Like in case of for evaluating the accuracy, we can run the text corpus and we have to check that whether the acronyms or abbreviations are properly elaborated or not. And the listening tests are used to evaluate the intelligibility and the naturalness. Intelligibility tests are nothing but, so whatever the speech that is generated, we use the listeners or the humans to listen to that speech, and we will ask them to write down what the message is. So, if they can able to write all the words properly, then it is more intelligible. Otherwise, if there are any missing words or wrong words if they write, it means that the intelligibility will be accordingly will be validated, right. And so, the mass score is not a mean opinion score. It is just used to like evaluate the naturalness of the speech, because humans, they know that how the speech what will be the natural speech. So, with respect to that, they will evaluate the synthesized speech on a scale of 1 to 5 scale. So, 5 means it is like it's just like a natural speech, or it is similar to the natural speech, and 1 means it is very poor quality speech, and other scales are like 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. They are like various different gradations with respect to like 2 extremes.